My father gathered the family to announce, "Your brother will now take over our 150-year-old estate. Olivia, as my daughter, you will get the guest cottage." I smiled quietly, remembering my great-aunt Martha's last words. "The papers in the blue room will protect you." When the lawyers opened the trust documents, the crystal chandelier cast long shadows over the dining room, as my father stood at the head of the table. He had perfect posture, a habit from his military days. The old grandfather clock in the corner struck 7. "As you all know," he began, his voice firm, "Ashworth Manor has been in our family for 5 generations. Now it's time to secure its future." I sat quietly, running my fingers over the wooden table where I'd spent so many family dinners. My brother James leaned back in our grandfather's chair, a smile on his face. He already knew what was coming. "James will take over the estate," Dad announced. "He'll manage everything, the house, the land, the investments. It's time for the next generation to lead." My mother nodded. "It's the natural order of things," she said. I thought of Great-Aunt Martha. 3 months ago, she had pressed a small brass key into my hand. "The blue room," she had whispered. "When the time comes, remember the blue room." Dad's voice pulled me back to the present. "And Olivia, you'll get the guest cottage. It's a generous offer, considering you chose marine biology, instead of learning estate management." James smirked. "Don't worry, sis, you can still visit the main house." I wasn't fooled. The cottage was a pretty way to keep me close, but without power. I thought of the women who had built this estate, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and Great-Aunt Martha. They had shaped Ashworth Manor in ways no one seemed to remember. "I see," I said calmly. My father hesitated, surprised by my reaction. "Well, that's settled," he said, reaching for the transfer papers. "We'll sign everything tomorrow." That night, I went to the East Wing. The blue room had been Great-Aunt Martha's private study. The brass key felt warm in my hand as I unlocked the door. The room smelled of old books and history. Moonlight streamed in, shining on her desk. I traced my fingers over the bookshelves, remembering her words. "This estate wasn't built by men alone, Olivia. The women of Ashworth Manor have always been its true guardians." Behind her portrait, just as she had said, I found the wall safe. The key fit perfectly. Inside was a thick envelope sealed with the family crest. James had always seen the estate as a symbol of status. He never cared about its history. He laughed at my interest in the gardens and archives. "Playing house won't make you the heir," he had teased. But Great-Aunt Martha had seen things differently. She had spent years preparing me for this moment. As I read through the documents, a smile formed on my lips. Tomorrow, my father would learn the truth. Great-Aunt Martha had created a trust 30 years ago. No major decision about the estate could be made without approval from both a male and female heir. My phone buzzed, a message from James. "Don't be difficult tomorrow. The cottage really is the best option for you." I placed the papers back in the safe and locked it. Tomorrow would change everything. Before heading back, I stopped at the family graveyard and laid fresh roses on Great-Aunt Martha's grave. "Thank you," I whispered. "I'll protect what you built." As I walked back to the manor, its lights glowing warmly in the night, I knew one thing for sure: Ashworth Manor's future wasn't my father's alone to decide. And I was ready to fight for my place in its legacy. The next morning's meeting in the estate's mahogany-paneled library felt like a carefully orchestrated play. My father's lawyer, Mr. Peterson, arranged his papers meticulously, while James paced by the window, occasionally checking his reflection in the glass. "Let's make this quick," James said, checking his watch. "I have plans to meet the developers about modernizing the East Wing." I sat in Great-Aunt Martha's favorite armchair, the trust documents stowed safely in my bag. My mother perched on the edge of her seat, anxiously smoothing her skirt. "Now then," Mr. Peterson began, "the transfer documents are straightforward. Mr. Ashworth will retain life rights to the cottage on the grounds, while the main estate transfers to James, effective immediately." "Actually," I interrupted softly, "there's something you should see first." I withdrew the envelope, watching my father's expression shift from annoyance to curiosity. "What's this?" he demanded as I handed the documents to Mr. Peterson. "Great-Aunt Martha's trust agreement," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Created in 1993, and registered with the family's long-standing law firm in London." Mr. Peterson's eyes widened as he read through the papers. This changes everything," he muttered. "What do you mean?" James snapped, striding over to peer at the documents. The estate was placed in an irrevocable trust 30 years ago, Mr. Peterson explained, his professional demeanor slipping slightly. According to these terms, any major decisions regarding Ashworth Manor require joint approval from both a male and female heir. The color drained from my father's face. That's impossible, Martha would have told me. Would you have listened? I asked quietly. You barely paid attention when she tried to discuss estate management with you. James snatched the papers from Mr. Peterson. This can't be legally binding, he sputtered. It's ridiculous. I've seen these documents before, Mr. Peterson admitted. They're quite real, and quite binding. Martha Ashworth was thorough in her legal preparations. My mother finally found her voice. But what about tradition? The estate has always passed to the eldest son. That tradition, I said, was actually broken several times. Great-grandmother Elizabeth ran the estate during the war. Grandmother Rose managed all financial decisions in the 1960s. Great-aunt Martha doubled our holdings in the last 30 years. The women of this family have always been more than decorative figureheads. James threw the papers onto the desk. This is just like you, isn't it? Always having to prove something. You couldn't just be happy with the cottage. The cottage was never the point, James. This isn't about where I live, it's about preserving what generations of our family built. Something you'd understand, if you'd ever bothered to learn our real history. Father slumped in his chair, looking suddenly older. Martha knew, all this time, she knew this would happen. Now you can watch the second part by pressing share and more.